What is up, Commentary Nation? So, I unfortunately ran into some production issues at Commentary HQ this weekend, so I was not able to record the normal video that I had planned for this week. So I figured instead of half-assing it, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick and dirty story time to discuss with you the production issues that I ran into that prevented my recording. Now, I work a normal 9-to-5 job, so I typically record on Sunday and then edit on Monday so that the video can go up on Thursday. But, of course, this week, that didn't exactly work out. So, instead, you're getting this story time. So, anyway, I'm doing minimal editing on this video, just going to kind of yap about what happened on Sunday. I already cleared this story of personal details with Commentary Legal, so I have the green light to go ahead and tell you about what went on. So I hope you enjoy. If you do, make sure you leave a like and maybe even subscribe if you're new. So this past Sunday, me and my buddy were driving from Indianapolis to Chicago for some work. And along the way, we were driving at about 2 a.m. And along the way, we ran into some trouble. So if you've ever driven on I-65 North, you will know that that is one of the most boring drives in America. And I wouldn't wish that drive upon anybody, not even my worst enemy. But that's what we were doing. And while we were driving, like I mentioned, it was about 2 a.m., we were about an hour and a half into the drive when a cat decided to run out in front of us on the highway. Now, my friend happens to be a liberal truck driver, so of course he was a little sissy and decided to do the right thing and avoid hitting it. He swerved and decided to spare the cat's life. Now, if he was a conservative truck driver, he probably would have just ran that thing over, but that's not here or there. So anyway, when he swerved, though, I don't know if you know this, swerving a 3-ton truck at 60 miles an hour, it's bound to cause some problems, and it did. It ran us off the road and into the grass on the side of the road. Now, thankfully, nobody was on the road with us at the time, so nobody was actually, put in danger because of this. But we end up on the side of the road, driving in the grass for maybe, 100, 200 feet. And while we're in the grass, we just feel boom, 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 and the truck's bouncing and bouncing. And thankfully, my buddy was able to regain control of the truck and pull us into the shoulder of the road. So the two of us sat there for a sec, made sure there were no injuries, and verified that we were both all good. That would have been really bad if we weren't, because that'd be the end of Commentary, and I know that would really disappoint all 15 to 20 of you subscribers. So thankfully, we were not injured. But after verifying that, we decided to go outside and check on the truck, which very well may have been injured. So my buddy gets out on the driver's side, and he looks relieved because there doesn't seem to be any damage. But when I got out on my side, I could immediately tell that there was not only one, but 2 flat tires. Both tires on the passenger side of the vehicle were completely flat. They had huge holes in them. So whatever we ran over, it took out 2 tires. Now, 1 tire, not that big of a deal, because you have the spare, you just pop it on, get to where you need to get, and deal with it the next day. But this was 2 tires. And when it's 2 tires, well, now you got to spend money and involve somebody else in this problem. And it was 2 a.m., so it's not like there were any tire shops open. So we sat in the truck for a while and evaluated our options. What we ended up finding out is that we were about 100 feet past the exit to go to a little town called Rensselaer, Indiana. And if you don't know what Rensselaer, Indiana is, you're probably a normal person, because nobody knows what Rensselaer, Indiana is. We sure didn't before we arrived. But anyway, we ultimately reversed the truck on the flats, get off at the exit, and pull up to the tire shop that was 3 minutes away. So we parked the truck there, And we're like, well, we're just going to have to call these guys in the morning and explain why we just left a truck in their lot. So when we are walking, there's a gas station in about the same lot as the truck. And as we're walking there, we notice that there's also a motel that is right next door. So we are kind of trying to decide whether we should just Uber to Chicago and come back for the truck the next day, or whether it would be best to just stay at the motel. Well, we get into the gas station and we start talking to Buddy. That's what I'll call him. And Buddy was working there at 2 a.m. and Buddy was very invested in what our problem was. He even stated that this was like the most interesting thing he's experienced at working at this gas station in forever. So we start talking to him and he mentions, oh, that tire shop you parked at, that's closed on Sundays. Like, we're in a real Bible part of Indiana, right? So they observe the Sabbath. And then we're like, fuck, dude. So it's closed, so that's just not going to happen. So ultimately, the Uber was going to be like $200 to get from where we were to Chicago, and that's if anybody even takes the ride to begin with. So we decided to stay at the motel. Now, I told the guy, like, okay, well, we're just going to have to stay at the motel, and Buddy says, hey, just so y'all know, when you get in there, you should just stay in your room once you get it. Well, I'm like, well, okay, but like, why? And he's like, oh, well, it's a bit of a crack den. So I'm like, oh, okay, great. That sounds good. We're staying at the crack den. Well, anyway, we go and get into the office, and I'm discussing with the guy at the counter, hey, what's it cost? We just got to stay here tonight. Here's the situation. And I shit you not, the guy sounded like this. He goes, well, I had you two queen beds for $200. And I'm like, I do not want to spend $200 on this problem. So, like, what else you got? And he's like, oh, I got one king bed for $60. And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take the king bed. And that's ultimately what we did. So we get to our room and flip the light on, but the light switch just doesn't turn on. No lights come on, so that's awesome. But thankfully for us, there was a bright ass street light right outside of the window that had no curtains. So that was good. We could still see. Hard to sleep, but we could still see. And we do some Googling before we go to sleep. Now, my friend ends up finding a roadside assistance company that is open 24 hours. So that's great. We give him a ring, and the guy answers. He has this real southern drawl, even though we're like in Indiana and we're like not in the South. But and he says, "Hey, what kind of truck you got?" And we tell him, we have a blah blah blah. And he says, "Hey, if I got some tires for a blah blah blah, I can come do it tonight for you." We're like, oh, dude, awesome. That'd be great. We would love that. And he says, oh, I just checked. I got no tires for a blah, blah, blah. So we're like, okay, great. Well, so thanks for checking, whatever. But he mentions I can get the tires for the blah, blah, blah tomorrow. We're going to have to do this tomorrow. We're like, okay, sure, we can do this tomorrow. We got a hotel room. That's no problem. So we end up going to bed. Okay. I wake up at about 10 a.m. Checkout at the motel was at 11 a.m. And I just dumped the keys off, and my buddy had already walked over back to the truck, so I went over there to meet him. He's sitting out front of the truck, and another truck pulls up. Okay, and that's the roadside assistance guy. Now he comes and he checks out the truck, and he's like, all right, I got to take off the wheels, and then I can take it to the tire shop, and we can get the tires for you. So we're like, all right, sure. Yeah, let's do it. And he mentions that the closest tire shop you can go to is 10 minutes away, but they're going to charge $500 a tire. So we're like, we do not want to pay $500 a tire. That's kind of ridiculous, even for the tire situation we're in. So he gets to look in on his little, I don't know, like tire app or whatever he was doing. And he finds another shop that's willing to sell both tires for $625, and it's 45 minutes north. So we're like, all right, let's do it. That sounds good. And he's like, all right. So we are going to go and get those tires for you, and you guys are just going to have to sit and wait here until we get back. But he also mentioned that he's going to try and see if this tire shop can mount the tires on the wheels, and then he could just come right to us and, put the wheels on, and then we're all good. So we're like, all right, yeah, go ahead and ask. So then we waited and waited. They took off at about 11 o'clock after we paid and everything was pretty much settled. And we waited in that hot sun for 3 hours, okay? Now, I'm not going to say what the roadside assistance company was. They were very kind to us, but I kind of felt like they were really dragging their feet on this one. That was at least the impression that I got. But they drove up north, and they got the tires, and they called us when they got there. It was about an hour after they left. They said, hey, Commenterry and friend, they're not going to be able to mount the tire, or they're going to be able to mount the tires here, but they said they could get it done by the end of the day. So do you want to wait? And we're like, no, are you kidding? Like, it's Sunday. We work 9 to 5s. Like, we need to get home. And the guy says, all right. We'll have to charge you, but we could take it back to our shop and mount the tires. So we're like, all right, whatever. At this point, just do it. So then they drive back, and I swear, these guys, they stop for lunch. They stop for lunch, and then they probably didn't even eat the lunch till they got back to their own shop, because it was like an hour and a half before we heard anything. So finally, it's almost 2 p.m. now. As I mentioned, they left at about 11, and we give them a call, and they answer, and they're like, oh, hey, great timing. We're heading to you right now. We're leaving our shop. It's like a 10-20 minute drive. We'll see you soon. We're like, oh, okay, great. So 10-20 minutes goes by. They're still not here. But so now I'm about to call them again just to see what's going on, see if they got lost or something. And, then I see a Harley Davidson and the same truck from before roll up. And I got to tell you, when you're stranded and it's a truck that you're trying to fix, you want to see a dude on a Harley Davidson with some sunglasses. Big old white dude, Harley, pair of sunglasses, probably bought from the gas station, rolling up. He looked like a hero. I swear to God. Well, anyway, he finally gets there. He tells us, yep, we mounted the tires. Took a little bit longer than we anticipated, but here we are, and we're ready to put these tires on for you. And, well, that's exactly what they did. They got the tires on the truck in, like, probably less. They brought a whole pit crew, man. It was, like, probably took them 5 minutes, not even, to get the actual tires on. We shake their hands. I let them know, dude, you're our heroes. And finally, at about 2:30, we got back on the road and got headed to Chicago. So, the incident, a cat running out into the road, causing the swerve, turned a 3-hour drive into about a, 15-hour drive, and got us stuck in Rensselaer, Indiana for the whole day. Now, I also want to mention that we were sitting, with the truck. Whoa. We were sitting with the truck for that whole time in the sun. It was like 80 degrees, and we were on the west side of the building at the closed tire shop, right? Now, every hour that we waited, the box of shade we had got smaller. And, of course, we were heading towards noon, so the sun was directly overhead by the time that we were in the last hour of the wait. So we had basically run out of shade. It's not like there was anywhere to go. I mean, there was private property nearby with trees, but that would have caused, a whole other slew of issues, if the guy caught us up on there. So we were really hoping that these guys would go a little faster than they did. But ultimately, just glad that they were there, glad they were able to help us, and glad we were able to get home. Now, me and my buddy came home with a pretty bad sunburn, even though we did everything we could to combat it. I mean, it was hot. It was 80 degrees. Sun was beating on us. I had a hoodie over my head and face, shoulders, and everything. So did my buddy. But regardless, we were pretty sunburned. We were hungry. We hadn't had a good meal. There was nothing to eat besides, gas station food and drink. And ultimately, once the wheels were back on the truck, we still had, an hour and a half, 2 hours to go to get to our destination. So I don't think we actually got to Chicago until like 5 p.m. when originally we were supposed to get there at like 5 a.m. So the moral of the story, I guess, if there is one, is that if something runs out into the road and you're going 60 miles an hour, I guess just run it over, as morbid as that is, because it's going to save you a lot of time, even if it disturbs you. So anyway, thank you for listening. Again, this has been Commentary, back in action, and I will have that video I plan to have today up hopefully by this Thursday. So thank you all for listening, and have a good one.